Welcome to this episode of And So It Flows. I'm your host, Nicole Krawcke, Chief Editor of Plumbing and Mechanical and PM Engineer magazines. Today's guest is Danielle Putnam, President of the New Flat Rate. Danielle, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Nicole, for having me. It's always a pleasure to see you, and it's fun to be here today.
Now, I think most people in the industry recognize your name and know about the New Flat Rate, but for those who don't, can you give our listeners a quick overview of your background and what's new with you guys?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for asking. The New Flat Rate is a menu pricing system. We offer 5 different price points for anything diagnosed in the home for service and repair or equipment replacement for heating and air, electrical, and plumbing, of course. And so we are done for you menus so that contractors and technicians can start using our system on day one and already have different pricing options to show their customers, and they don't have to build anything themselves. So, and we also do all the pricing updates for them all throughout the year when, materials and everything changes. They don't have to worry about that. So it's push button ready, and we do that for them. And then any changes that are going on, if I could be honest, Nicole, sometimes I'm too honest, and you've caught me and we're recording, and I hope I don't come back and kick myself later for this, but I think it's important to be honest and relatable and real. And reality is I've had too much distance over the last few years between myself and the New Flat Rate as a product, right? We developed this menu pricing system, and we have contractors in all 50 states and 4 provinces of Canada using the system and receiving great results. And I constantly hear the testimonies of, because of you guys, my service tickets are doubled and tripled. And because of you guys, we have better employee retention and more referrals and all these great things. So I hear the good all the time, but I got too far removed from new features, right? Or what's really going on with the product out there and new use cases. And so over the last couple months, I have been sitting in the seat with the development teams of, okay, how can we actually use this product better? How do our customers and members really want to be able to interact with this? And so that's what's new in 2023 is I've got a queue of new features that we're developing based on, of course, customer feedback. And so it pains me to say I didn't do that sooner. And as a business owner, I failed my members in that. I didn't even know that I was so far removed from what they were asking for. So I'm really excited to be able to have a lot of announcements this year of being like, hey, Fred, you remember when you asked for this? Hey, Mike, you remember when you asked for that? And I'm delivering it on a silver platter. I'm really excited.
That's great. Better late than never, right?
I mean, it's coming. 2023 is our year.
It's our year.
Yeah.
So our topic for discussion today is, staying profitable amidst economic uncertainty, which is, what's going on today. So many economists are, predicting a recession in 2023. Some are saying it's already here. The plumbing and HVAC industries are already somewhat recession-proof given the nature of the business, but what advice would you offer to contracting business owners on how to best weather economic uncertainty so they can come out the other side, stronger and better than before?
Yeah. It can be really scary. There is an influencer and a coach, serial entrepreneur that I like to follow. His name's Ted Miller III. And his take is recession. What recession? And what I mean by that is it starts mentally in the head for him. And so I've adopted that philosophy as well. And it's something I'd love to encourage, our audience and service professionals with as well, that the price of eggs, if you can find eggs, is horrific right now, and everybody's talking about it. And so there are changes that are happening right now. And there's a lot of inflation and then the recession and stuff. It's expensive. It's hard to live for a lot of people. But in our industry, it starts in our head and it's a choice. Are we going to participate in a recession, or are we going to continue to grow strong, profitable businesses? And so that's where I'd like to encourage people to make sure that it starts in your head that this year is still going to be a great year. So that being the case, we also have to step back and keep a close eye on our numbers. Keep a close eye. Is the phone ringing? Is our P&L good? Are our expenses getting out of hand, right? We have to be measuring and monitoring and watching places, whereas in the past, we might not have had to watch so closely. One downfall of cash flow being really good, like the last couple of years, is that it's easy to not notice so much the different expenses that are slipping through the back doors, right? We could have more holes in our business bucket, and it doesn't really matter because there's plenty of cash flow coming in. And so right now this year, I'd say, hey, you know what? Let's keep a positive outlook, but let's also start looking again at those numbers to make sure that we can course correct before it's too late.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So contractors in this industry are no stranger to rising material prices, considering everything that's happened over the past few years following, the COVID-19 pandemic and then, the resulting supply chain issues. So what advice would you offer to business owners on how best to manage these price fluctuations?
Yeah, good question. Having a good system is really helpful. With the new flat rate, we're constantly monitoring that. And so we're price changing for our members. But if you don't have a pricing platform that's doing it for you, um, then it is really important to be able to monitor it all the time. And so if you're going into the supply houses, when you notice that the prices have gone up, you're definitely going to have to take a look and watch closely to your P&L. And you might have to spend a little bit more time however you're doing your pricing, whether it's on an Excel spreadsheet or whether if you're pulling it out of your head right now, that might be a little dangerous this season. So I'd encourage you to whatever your system is to take a fine look at that and make sure that you're looking at it more often than you used to.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about profitability. How can plumbing and HVAC business owners best keep their businesses profitable during times like these?
Be honest. Be honest with your numbers. Are you paying yourself? Are you not paying yourself? Right. And so it's easy to, especially as a business owner, to maybe not be paying yourself what you're worth and to think that you are more or less profitable than you actually are. So make sure that you're not cutting yourself out of that. Because if you're not paying yourself what you're worth, then your company's probably not as profitable as you wanted to think that it was. So that's one thing. But then let's talk about what the market will bear right now. So with rising costs, homeowners might not want to spend as much, with their retail shopping. But as you've already said, Nicole, there are basic needs that they do need. And so now would be a good time, I would like to say, to strongly look at your service instead of just replacement, especially if you're a company that pushes replacement, replace that water heater, replace that heating and air system. Right now is a great time to look at helping the homeowner get a couple more years out of something. And then you can grow your value and your dollars and your profitability in your service department right now. That would be in twofold, very helpful to some homeowners, and then also for your business to really watch and grow the profitability of your service department.
And not to mention the homeowner, would be grateful, to have a
Mm-hmm.
less, expensive ticket item and then possibly go back to that same contractor in the future for when they need replacement.
Yeah. And of course we can say financing, offer financing. People might need more financing and creative financing. If it's okay for me to say, we've become great friends lately with Optimus, and they're doing a great job with some consumer financing options. Um, and also to watch your profitability, lead follow-up. Like how I feel like that is such a big untalked about hole in this home services industry is homeowners might call multiple people or they might bring you out to look at something. And if you don't follow up with them, then really you're shooting yourself in the foot. How often, it's like you have the opportunity, your phone was ringing, you were in front of a customer. And if they did not buy from you that day, why? That's a number that we all need to be looking at. Like, how many $0 calls did we go on? Was there something to be followed up with? And if there was, then Nicole, what's the process for that? And the process, take a marker and go to the whiteboard and start workflowing. What is the process for a $0 service call? Is there a manager that calls the customer? Hey, Mr. Customer, is there something that we could have done better? Or, hey, I see that Joe recommended this, what do we need to talk about to get this moving forward? So what is the process? Is there a mailing that goes, an email that goes? Do they go back into some sort of little marketing funnel? Is there a text message reminder for them to do that service next week or the next month? Or is the answer nothing? Or if you, the owner, you're the one that's going out and you're going on estimates and calls late in the evening, Well, then what's the process? Where do you bring that estimate to when you go back into the office? Now, some of you companies might be like, well, Danielle, that's dumb. Of course, we have a process for that. But this is a time to be very honest, because I know that the majority of us might not have a good process for that. And so that is an area where we're going to be losing a lot of profitability this next year when we need to tighten our belt a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, another thing I've noticed right now in our industry is it seems like there are so many more plumbing and HVAC contracting businesses out there to compete against. So, how can plumbing and HVAC contractors keep good profitable margins but also compete with, let's say a competitor's lower price?
Hmm, you know, having that good working relationship with the customer is important. Being top of mind is important. So if we could talk on the front end of marketing, I want to mention yard signs. There is only one contractor in our town, and it's my brother that has yard signs. You can't drive around this town without seeing his yard signs all over the place. And it's kind of like a warm, cozy feeling. I'm like, oh, Dallas was working over there, Dallas was working over here. But nobody else in town has yard signs. But being top of mind with your customers, whether you're sending them things, emails, phone calls, text messages, just the basic marketing and putting yard signs in their yards so that people do remember you. And I say that to answer your question, with more and more people, starting their own businesses and having more one-man trucks, owner operators in the field now than we had before. It's important to be top of mind. So when they go to Google, hey, who should I call today? They remember they're going to, call you their trusted home service provider. And then when they do call you, making sure that the experience is great from the phone to the on-site visit, making sure that your processes are scripted and in place so that they feel like they're going to receive the value that they want. And let's make it about value and not price, because some of these, other owner operator or smaller companies that are popping up all over will be able to undercut you on price. Absolutely. All day long. They don't have the overhead that you have, but can you win in value? Yes, you can. But you have to take a look back and care about it, care about the value that you're providing, care about the wow factor that you're providing to your customers, that it's no longer just, hey, yeah, they are a service agreement customer, so they're going to call me. Not necessarily, right? So we have to win our customers back every day.
Okay. What do you think is the best way for contractors to actually grow their businesses during a recession?
Take a look at what you like to work on as a business. What is your company good at? And can you grow it? And so we can do one of two things. We can sit back and say, okay, there's a recession. It's going to be a slow year. Let's downsize and let's just sit back and see what happens to us. Or we can be proactive. And right now is the time to be proactive and say, you know what? I'm not going to participate in the recession this year. I'm going to have a great year. So what does my company love to do? What are we good at? And then do we need to do some more marketing for that? Or do we need to add some verticals to it so that we don't have slow seasons this year or shoulder seasons? Do we need to add some things? Do I have a skilled workforce? What else can they do this year? And do we need to be doing that? And then without even adding a whole bunch of verticals, I'm really passionate about going back and whiteboarding with the workflow of where is my company dropping the ball? Are there holes in our daily processes where we are inefficient and we are losing profitability? If we can plug those holes and increase our efficiency in our day-to-day operations, that's going to help with our profitability this year. And we don't even have to make huge changes. And it could be the way that, we debrief at the end of the call. Do the techs come back to the office every single time? Or, there could be a process in your company that you could actually fix. And it doesn't have to be the owner that does that. It's really a great time in life, especially this year, to go to our whole teams and say, what do you see? And empower our teams to help write processes to fix things that are broken in our companies. I know, Nicole, I'm talking a little bit long-winded here, but I'm a little passionate about this. As owners, it's so easy for us to take the weight on our shoulders and feel like that we have to fix everything. And then, we get down into the, hey, I'm working in the company instead of on the company. And it forces us to stay small in some areas, right? And then we can't be as profitable. We can't grow, and our team can't grow. And then we get more employee turnover. But we've got to be able to empower the front lines and let them know, hey, Nicole, I need some of your help. We're just not being so efficient over here. I don't know why. Will you take a look and make some recommendations?
Well, it just makes sense to go to, your employees because they're the ones that are in front of the customer. They know what
Yeah.
can be fixed, what can be made to be more efficient and everything like that.
They can. And they surprise you, right? When you actually go hands off and let them do their thing, they'll surprise you with their talent. Sometimes our employees are waiting for us to get out of the way, right?
That's a good point. I think more owners need to realize that.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of on the other tail end of that, how can contractors, help their technicians close more tickets and boost sales?
By not pressuring them to sell, by giving them a process that works for them. If you want to close more tickets, we also have to be honest about the zeros, like I mentioned before. There needs to be tracking boards. The technicians need to know their metrics. So, for example, maybe the technicians need to know, hey, we're going to go for a 95% close rate at this company, or whatever the number is, and find out first. Let's identify what it is today. Let's take a look at all of our tickets from the last month, for example. How many were $0? How many were diagnostic only? How many were service and repair? How many were equipment? Let's take a look if you're not already doing this, and your software might be doing this for you. And let's find out where our actual benchmark is. And then we can put some manageable numbers in there for improvement. If we're at a 50% rate and we want to move it to 55 or 60%, let's make some manageable chunks. And then you have to give visibility to your team so that they know. So the technicians know, okay, my numbers are right here. I only close 50% of the jobs that I go on, and my boss wants me to close 55% instead of 50%. And so then the boss needs to be ready to help with the process. So, all right, Joe, when this situation happens, if this, then this. And sometimes we have to be that granular in training and retraining our team, if that makes sense. So they know what to do and know what you're looking at and what you're measuring. Otherwise, why do they care?
Hmm.
Right? You want me to sell more, you want me to do more, but you're not telling me what. Like, they need some direction, and they're asking. I find more and more people out in the field these days are asking for their lane and their direction. What do you expect from me?
Okay. Now, I've been seeing a lot of plumbing contractors adding HVAC services and vice versa. Have you noticed the same with the people you work with in the industry? And, do you think this is a smart way to grow your business during times like these?
I absolutely do. I think we are seeing more and more of that. And you can start, in small ways, right? You don't have to necessarily add, if you are a plumbing company, you don't necessarily have to add an entire HVAC line. You could start dabbling in some things that relate with your field a little bit more. Maybe dabbling in some building science and some indoor air quality, some crawl spaces. Oh, there's a wet crawl space. Well, I'm in plumbing. There's, I deal with water. What can I do here? Learning step by step, baby steps before you jump in all the way. But being able to be diverse as a company, it is very wise, right? Historically, we can look at companies that are very diverse and we can see how they've weathered the storm. And when you have a talented skill force that you can cross train, that could be really, really valuable this year. So yes, I think it's time to not only add verticals and cross train some of our people, but being active on the discussion boards, whatever business best practices groups that you're in, the discussion boards and the Facebook chat boards, or wherever it is that you get your information in the groups. But let's really open up and share with each other. What are we adding right now that's helping in your markets? Because it might be something that is creative. I know an HVAC contractor who added doorbells because he goes to so many houses in Atlanta, the front doorbell doesn't work. And so he added that as a simple service of fixing front doorbells. And that's a profitable new revenue stream. He's already there, and it's simple. And so let's be creative in our discussions with each other on, what are you adding? What can I add? And talking to your team. Hey, what have you seen in a customer's home that's broken that you would actually know how to fix?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And another issue that I hear facing contractors today, like everywhere, is finding labor and finding
Mm-hmm.
good labor. There's a
Mm-hmm.
distinction there, I've been told.
Yeah.
So, what do you think needs to be done to attract more people to the trades?
Man, Nicole, it's painful. And it's not just our industry. I was talking to somebody the other day. I went out to lunch with some ladies from the flooring industry, and they're
Okay.
like, oh, we are having such a crisis of finding flooring installers. I was like, oh, we have a crisis as well, right? And so it's not just plumbing and HVAC and it's everybody, right? So finding the labor force, but I found it funny. I was like, oh, you guys have a hard time finding carpet installers? I didn't know. Uh, but Nicole, when I talk to people and I talk to contractors and they all say, hey, I can't find anybody. I can't find anybody. I say, but you're trying, right? Yeah, of course. We're doing everything. I said, you are, right? Yeah, yeah, we're doing everything. You are, you're doing everything. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I said, so you have an ad posted today? Well, no. Okay. You have an interview process? Well, no. Okay. Your employees know that you guys are hiring and they know how to invite their friends? Well, no. You have signs on your trucks? Well, no. Okay, but you're doing everything, right? So it comes back to the basics for anybody. And I'm not harping on on contractors that are already super busy. But if you want to hire somebody in your company and you need talent and you need a technician, then you have to have a DRP, and it's a directly responsible person who is responsible for finding and hiring the next person that you need. And if there's not anybody that's responsible, it's not happening. If it's you as the owner, that's okay. But then every single day, a portion of your time has to be dedicated to finding and hiring and retaining technicians and top talent. If you're not doing that, then you're whining. And I'm tired of hearing the whining because everybody's been whining, right?
Yes.
Everybody, even myself. I need people too. We all do, but we're whining because we're busy. No, then it's not a priority for you. And I don't want to hear about it. So if it's a priority, it's got to be on your agenda every single day. Somebody has to be responsible. And I 100% believe that that would make a difference if we would take the ownership and be responsible. But to your point, it is hard. There is not a lot of technicians. And so what I've seen successful contractors doing is growing their own, right? They're finding talented, mechanically inclined professionals who are looking for a career path, looking for a company to be a part of, a team where they can grow and they can learn, and they are training them themselves. And they're getting great success out of that.
Okay.
But they're finding people with great attitudes, and they're just going back to, okay, we're going to have to train our own. And they are.
Okay. Now you mentioned retention, and I feel like that is an important, other half of that equation that I don't think is talked about, nearly enough. And I saw, I was scrolling on social media the other day and I saw a post that you made not too long ago about this, and I'm hoping you'll share this story with our listeners. Not to put you on the spot.
Yay. Yay. Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't know if you were going to lead into the story more.
No,
Well,
I want you
so
to say it.
yeah. Okay, good. Good. Okay. So a couple of years ago, I was reading through this magazine, Entrepreneur Magazine. And in case you don't know, it's, heavily circulated. It's a huge magazine like Forbes magazine. So Entrepreneur Magazine, I get a subscription and I start reading it and I start following. And one day I noticed that my very favorite article in the magazine every month to read was from the editor. I loved his editor's notes. Same with yours, Nicole. I love to always read your editor's notes, right? And so if I'm going to read anything in a magazine, that's what I've really come. I love Nicole's, and I love the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine. His name was Jason, and still is, Jason Pfeiffer. So I start reading his editor's notes, and at the bottom, he had an email address. He's like, if you have any comments on this, shoot me an email. I was like, oh my gosh, should I or shouldn't I? I was really nervous to send an email to this guy, thinking he was never going to respond. So I sent an email, and it wasn't 20 minutes later and he responded, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, he's actually responding to me. This is a real person. And so that was, a couple years ago. If I was to call him today, he doesn't know me. We're not besties, right? But I'll just say that if I do email him, he does email back. So, fast forward a couple years to this past fall. I was going on maternity leave with my baby, and he was doing this promotion of, hey, if you pre-order and buy my new book, he just did a new book called Build for Tomorrow. And he says, if you pre-order my book, I will send you a voice memo answering any question that you want. I was like, oh my gosh. Well, I was on maternity leave, so I didn't see his promotion until it was expired. but I wanted to participate. I was like, I want a voice memo from Jason Pfeiffer. And so I shot him an email and I said, hey, I'm so sorry that I'm late on this. I was on maternity leave, having a sweet baby, but would you still be willing to send me a voice memo and answer my greatest question? He says, of course, because he's a wonderful guy. Absolutely, Danielle. That's a great excuse. Send me your greatest question. Okay, cool. So then I start thinking about it. I was like, oh my gosh, what is my greatest question? What do I really need to ask? Jason Pfeiffer, the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine, is going to answer me directly. Well, I had a talk coming up. And so I was like, and I was going to talk about employees and leadership and employee retention. And so I'm like, how can I ask him and he'll give me the answers for my talk? So I craft this question. It was a 2-part question. I email it to him and it was crickets. It was silence. And he didn't respond. And so the event came and passed, and I had to come up with my own content for the thing, right? And I was so bummed. And so then finally, a couple weeks ago, I get this email from him, and it's a 6-minute long voice memo. He's like, Danielle, I'm so sorry. It took me so long to get back to you. I was busy with the book promotion and the tour. So please forgive me, but here as promised. So he is a man of his word. He actually sends me this voice memo. And in the voice memo, that's what I asked him, Nicole. I said, how do we get employees to take ownership in our companies? Because as in our industry in home services, we have so many owners of smaller businesses, and they're trying to hire and retain employees and get them to participate in the dream, but yet they don't have ownership in it. So why should they be happy to work for you and grow your company for you when they think that the boss is a greedy jerk? Like, why should they, right? And that's my begging question. So Jason responds back and he says, well, employees, to be happy and to help with retention, to keep them there at your company, they need 3 things. And the 3 things are this. Number 1, they need autonomy. They need to feel like they're actually making their own decisions. And that's where I really do believe that the more we can push decision-making to the front line, our technicians in the field, letting them know, hey, as long as it is between A and B, yes, you can make that decision. Or as long as it's under X amount of dollars, yes, you can make that decision. If we have some parameters so they can make their own decisions, that gives them autonomy, and then they're empowered. Number 2 is competency. They want to feel good at what they're doing. They want to feel like they're very competent in their job. And so it's important for us to clearly define the expectations of their role and to provide them the training so that they're equipped to do a good job. Nobody wants to feel like they suck at their job. They want to feel competent. And number 3 was relatedness. They want to feel connected to others. And so that's why, with your company, if you don't do a daily parking lot meeting or something like that, instituting something as small as getting the team together, they want to have friends in the workplace or people to talk to in the workplace. They want to feel that connectedness, and that helps them to take ownership and pride in where they work. So it's as simple as that, straight out of Jason Pfeiffer's mouth.
I love that. That is great advice as well. Well, that is pretty much all the time we have today. Danielle, was there anything else in general that you wanted to add?
I'm just going to remind everybody again, what we talked about in the beginning today is let's watch our mindsets this year, right? I'm not going to sit back and let a recession come and take over our industry, and I hope nobody else is either, right? Let's look ahead and be really positive this year, and let's make things happen for our businesses.
And that is a great goal going into 2023. Let's make positive decisions and let's make things happen. So thanks again for taking the time with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.